Hey, friends, Powwow guy Rob Phoenix here. Hope you're all doing well. We're in the new moon phase. The moon is waxing, building. So a good time to start cleaning up your gardens and start planting those things that will grow above ground. Like your annuals, pretty much annuals, things that grow above ground or need to be reseeded every year. During the waning moon is when you plant like bulbs and such, things that will grow from the same root over and over again. But I didn't want to talk about the moon. I don't know why I mentioned that, but what I wanted to talk about was some really cool like Pennsylvania Dutch culture. And I remember this from my grandparents. My grandparents had a lot of like weird superstitions. Like my grandmother had this thing where we would pick these little yellow buttercup flowers and hold them under your chin. And if you could see the yellow light on your chin, you were healthy. And if you couldn't see it, then you were coming down with some sort of sickness. I guess that's all I can remember about their superstitions, but they're interesting people. But Pennsylvania Dutch culture has all kinds of weird, cool, fun superstitions. And a lot of that has infiltrated its way into the way Pennsylvania Dutch experience our folk magic and our Christian, like our Christian folk Christianity. Sorry. Um, so I have this book. This is a great book. It's called Beliefs and Superstitions of the Pennsylvania Germans by Edwin Miller Fogel, PhD. I believe this was written in the, well, I'm going to tell you when it was written as soon as I look it up. Um, yeah, it doesn't say, but I think it was the 80s. It doesn't matter, but it's really cool. It has all these great superstitions in it. So I highlighted just a few for like fun discussion. The first one I came across is never let a child lie alone in their room. The witches will steal it. And this is interesting because there's a lot of like quote unquote paranoia within the Pennsylvania Dutch culture about witches, hexerai, the hexen. And particularly when it comes to babies. Babies are like super vulnerable, like physically, spiritually, whatever. And so there are a lot of charms and cures within the powwow tradition to protect your child from witchcraft. Also, there are like folklore things. Now, this is coming from like Eastern European sources and such, not technically Pennsylvania Dutch, but some of us have ancestry that's like whatever. So, um, things like the excuse me, um, like the fairies and nature spirits and demonic spirits and such, like going and taking the baby away, and then like a spirit takes the form of the baby. What's that? Like a changeling or something. Anyway, that's kind of a myth in Pennsylvania Dutch culture, even though it's not particularly German, but it is like kind of Eastern European. Maybe it comes from the Irish. It's hard to say. There's such a melding of cultures here. But that's a good one. Like, just don't leave your kid alone because you never know what's going to happen. Um, Here's one that this is definitely in use today for adults as well. It's something called a witch's jar, or witch's bottle. So if a child is bewitched, put some of its urine and 6 new needles into a bottle. Cork it tightly and hide the bottle. A bit of steel, such as a needle, protects one from witches. Now, a witch's bottle or a witch's jar um, can be with your urine, with shards of broken mirror, rusty nails, razor blades, bits of glass, that sort of thing. You want all that, like, you want some steel and some glass and some reflective stuff and some broken sharp bits, um, so that if you're targeted by like malevolent magical means, it will the magic will find that first because it has such a concentrated form of your energy in there in that form of like your urine if or blood or semen or whatever you put in there. And it will get like ripped apart and deflected back by all the rust and the mirror and the silver and blah 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 blah. Blah. So that's kind of an old thing. The witch's bottle is like cross-cultural. That's various cultures have a version of that. Here's a good one. Thunderstorms on Ascension Day bring bad luck. So I was just looking up Ascension Day. Ascension Day changes because it's 40 days after, Easter, of course. Um, So this year it's Thursday, May 9th. So thunderstorms on Ascension Day bring bad luck. Now there's nothing you can do to avoid that. So I guess if it's Ascension Day, if it's Thursday, May 9th, 2024, and there's a thunderstorm, maybe don't take a risk. Maybe just kind of lay low. Maybe don't take that chance. Maybe don't think it's a good day for hanging mirrors or climbing ladders or playing the lottery. I don't know. Just anyway, it's just a fun thing. Holy days often have like a lot of superstitions built up around them. And I really think that's interesting. Like if somebody is sick and they take a turn for the worst on a Sunday, that means they're pretty much going to die. Just like little superstitions like that because Sunday's a holy day, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Here's a fun one. Never pick up money from a crossroads. It will bring bad luck. Crossroads are used in like a Hexenmeister work because you would take something to a crossroads like an Urge Spiegel, for example, like a magic mirror, and you would bury it there for 3 nights before the dark moon. And then dig it up at the dark of the moon, and you would see the face of the offender in the glass, and that has to be buried at a crossroads. Other crossroads myths, we've all heard them, especially like stories about like hoodoo and all that stuff from the South. They would go to a crossroads to commune with the devil, sell their soul, make a deal with the demon and such with. So crossroads have like this sort of dark, nefarious history and this association with like being on the edge of the living world and the demonic world. Like you're at a crossroads, you're at this like fixed place that is between worlds. So there's a lot of like a folklore about crossroads. So picking up money from a crossroads being bad luck, you can kind of understand that because that may have been put there by someone who was making a deal with something um, not meant to bring us good fortune. um, Here's another one. This is for if somebody has a lengthy sickness, like if somebody's just like, at death's door and hospice and they're suffering and it's dragging out. Now, this kind of is a serious one, but um, it's kind of like, okay, to hasten death, put a New Testament under the head of the sick person. To me, this is like a mercy thing. This is like, if it's just being drug out. Like, I think probably all of us or many of us have experienced like somebody like in our life, directly or indirectly, and they've been suffering with an illness and the doctors can do no more and they're sent home to like spend out their days and they're just like gasping for air and they have their wits are gone. They don't know where they are anymore. Their minds are gone and their bodies are just suffering and deteriorating. And it takes such a toll on the family. And you can't bear to see the person in this state. And I think the idea is to place the New Testament under under the pillow. It almost represents like by the grace of God, you know, pass on. And so I think that's kind of a lovely one. I kind of like that one. Um, Certainly I would not use it like as a verhexing thing, like, oh, I don't like this person. Slip that under the pillow, lights out. No, I wouldn't think of it that way. I would think of it as more of a mercy kind of situation. Um, Here's one. This one, no, this is kind of a popular thing, a sort of a well-known thing within Pennsylvania Dutch culture that if you've been verhexed, the first person to come to you to borrow something uh, is the witch, because it is said that when someone verhexes you, in order for them to keep that for hex going, they have to get something of yours. So they can initially cast the hex, but it's not going to last unless they get something that belongs to you. So they may come to your house and ask to borrow something or ask for something to eat or drink. These are modern days, so they might text you, can you send me this or whatever. So they're the ones to be suspicious of. It's kind of like returning to the scene of the crime, I guess, or if somebody like spreads a rumor about you and then, they're the first one to act like they're your friend, whatever. Here's one. I like this one too. Call a dog, like name the dog Water or fire, and he can't be bewitched. Um, there's a really good, like, general sort of basic powwowing ritual called the water and fire charm, or I call it that. I don't know if that's the official name, but Desvasser and Desfjord, Desvasser and Desfjord, Desvasser and Desfjord. It's just sweeping off like some sort of like malevolent influence using the wording and the imagery of the fire of the Holy Spirit and the water of baptism. Um, so water or fire and can't be bewitched. You know, that's kind of cool, especially considering we use those words in an anti-witchery ritual. This one's interesting too because, well, I'll tell you, first of all, to prevent homesickness, take off the shirt and put it on again, wrong side out. You know, we've heard that too. Like if somebody is slandering you, you take off your shirt, turn it inside out, and slam it in the door. And it turns that slander back onto the person that's doing it. But like when like Bill and I adopted a son years ago, but when we were first going through the process, one of the caseworkers said, you know, the t-shirt you're wearing today, maybe at the end of the day, take it off and put it around his pillow as like a pillow sheet. And that way he'll get accustomed to your scent, um, and help build a rapport. So to prevent being homesick, you could understand like something that feels or smells or whatever reminds you of home, makes you feel like connected to home. So that makes sense. Like, I don't know that like if I was homesick, you know, I would want to smell my own shirt because it would just remind me of me, which of course would smell fantastic. Anyway, but I might want something that like maybe has a scent of one of my dogs on it or like smells like Bill's cologne or whatever. You know, just as kind of a reminder from home. Um, Here's an interesting one. Now, we don't really have owls around here. Um, Sometimes we have like certain types of doves that sound like owls, but they're not owls, they're doves. But here's one. The hooting of owls at dusk indicates rain. And there's another one just above it that says, if owls hoot at nightfall, it indicates bad weather. So I don't know, like if any of you live in an area where there are owls, you'll have to like let me know in the commentary below because that's really interesting. Like, does, you know, is that kind of a thing? Like here, you know, with barring the fact that we don't have any owls, we say like, oh, our dogs are eating grass or the cows are laying on the field or the leaves are flipped over and they're showing their backside. That means rain. So yeah, if you hear owls hooting, like, is that like an indication of rain? That's cool. This one is actually not really a superstition. It's actually scientific. Smoke, like if you have a fire in your house, the smoke rising is a sign of clear weather. But if the smoke is staying within the fireplace and coming through the house, it's a sign of rain coming. And that has a lot to do with what the, you know, like barometric pressure, low pressure zones and such with forcing that smoke downward. So yes, absolutely. That would be a way, you know, an indication that there is rain coming forthwith. Here's another one. Never go visiting in the sign of Pisces, as it always rains then. I think that's interesting because I mean Pisces is kind of like our um, you know, late winter, early spring kind of season. I guess that's kind of the rainy season. I mean, you know, it's more like the late winter season, but it's still, I mean, there you go. So if anybody knows, like, if that's true where you live, I mean, it could be true here, but it's not always raining. It just, that is kind of a rainy season. But then again, like, so is, you know, so is late March. So is kind of some of April. Like, we're supposed to get rain in the next 3 days. So I don't really know how that is, but never go visiting in the sign of Pisces as it always rains then. Maybe just because it's just such a crappy time of year. Like, don't make plans to go visiting. I don't know. March snow water is holy water and is good for sore eyes. I like this one just because I was talking about eclipse water the other day and I thought it was funny. So collecting snow in March and letting that dissolve into water is meant to be holy water and it's good for sore eyes. So I guess like cleansing your eyes with it, I would recommend caution that you're using clean snow and not snow with gravel or rock salt or snow melt or dog pee in it. um, to make holy water. So March snow is holy water and is good for sore eyes. That's really all the superstitions I want to talk about. This book has hundreds and hundreds of them in, but those are some of my favorite ones that I thought were really good for discussion. Um, but it just it goes to show that like some things that people consider superstition are things that other people might just be like, well, that's just a part of life. It's just what we did. It's just what we thought. It's what we believed. And it's what we still do. And you find a lot of that in powwowing. Like outsiders might look at powwowing and be like, yeah, that's a bunch of weirdness. But for those of us who live in the culture and practice the tradition and are very true to it, uh, well, we agree, like, yes, I can see how that would be strange, but this is just, it's how we've always done it. It's what we do. It's our way of life. It's part of our tradition. It's who we are. It's what we are. So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff in powwow, a lot of superstitions. I'm sure you have your favorites. If you want to talk about that below, we can. I mean, you know, I'm always interested in superstitions and how like it crosses the boundary between just a superstitious belief and something that we actually do. Like I think subconsciously a good example would be like we try not to step on cracks on the sidewalk because you step on a crack, you break your mother's back. I don't know where that comes from or what culture it's part of, but all of us kind of like we do that. We avoid walking under ladders, we avoid breaking mirrors. Um, these are just things that are so integrated into our psyche and our cultural experience, and it's just part of like our human experience. So, if you have any favorites, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video and check out the book Belief and Superstitions of the Pennsylvania Germans by Edwin Miller Fogel, PhD. Fascinating book. So that's it for tonight. Hope you guys are doing well. God bless you guys. Love you. And let's talk soon.